Hello, Luke from myVolts here. Thanks for coming back and having a look at the Silent Alchemist, our USB power hub that we're launching this week. We wanted to tell you a little bit more about the possibility of USB power and show you how much it can actually power. So what I'm doing today is we're actually powering everything on this table just from this 100 watt power bank. So that's a pretty impressive load of synths. There's 20 synths and pedals there. The eagle-eyed among you will see there's not just pedals, you've got some little scopes and mixers and different things, even the Duracell bunny. But what I want to do is I want to tell you about, first of all, how you do this. Obviously there's going to be some sort of the Silent Alchemist is an 8-port hub. So how do you power 20 instruments from an 8-port hub? So you're thinking, well, first of all, you're going to need some daisy chaining. You're going to need to sort of split the power into different parts. You might think that this is an isolated hub, and you might think, well, there's a disadvantage there in that you're going to use isolation. The answer to that is not actually. You may well find ways around that. There's certainly possibilities. So I'm going to show you a few ways to do that. I'm going to show you 3 main ways of daisy chaining. We're going to start with what we call box daisy chaining. So the Silent Alchemist has a 24-volt DC output. That allows you to power, first of all, daisy chain other Silent Alchemists. So I've got another unit here, for example. Okay, so another Silent Alchemist. This is daisy chained. You can see that's powered. That's daisy chained from this unit. And the way we're doing that is we've got our what we call the crazy chain cable. It's crazy because it's like a daisy chain cable but crazier. And what do we mean by crazier? Well, a normal daisy chain cable, you're probably familiar with this type of daisy chain cable, which is one single input, and then it breaks that down into a number of different outputs. So the difference with our crazy chain cable is it's actually modular. So what you've got is an output here, but you've got an input and an output on this. So you can put more and more cables together, and it means you can power more and more devices, but you get additional advantages in that you're not stuck with the same physical connection. You can change the size of the DC tip. We've also got cables that change polarity as well, so you can change polarity as you go along a chain. So what we're going to do is we're going to break this down into all the different chains. I mentioned there polarity is an issue. One thing about the crazy chain cable, if you look at the rear, what we've done is we've actually built a little polarity indicator into the back of the cable. Polarity is very important when you're dealing with instruments. Some devices don't have polarity protection. We found yesterday a device didn't, and you need to be aware that what you're plugging in doesn't have negative when it needs positive, or vice versa. So you can see in this case you've got a blue light here. If I plug a negative polarity into it, it'll go red. The basis of that is, if you've seen our Step Up tip adapters, so these are the handy little USB-C adapters that go onto the end of a USB-C cable, use the PD protocol to change it to, in this case, a 9-volt center negative connection, and in this case, to a 9-volt center positive. So this would be great for guitar pedals, and this would be great for Korg Volcas and any other sort of Korg gear tends to use this particular tip size. This is a 9521 tip, or 5521 tip. This is a 4717 tip. So that's the DC tip specs. But that's really important that we have a facility where on each chain, PD gives us the ability to keep control of the voltage on each output. Like I said, we can use these ones. You see here in the Digitac, we've got a pink one. That's a 12-volt output. So depending on what connection you put on the end of the cable, that will determine the voltage of the output. So voltage is sort of covered in a way. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down this whole setup in terms of voltage. So there's a number of chains. So I'm going to start at the beginning, which is that we have a Ripcord plugged into a USB-A port here. It's a 3-volt Ripcord, okay? So this is a step down rather than a step up. We found that there was a lot of things like pocket operators, tape cassettes, even the Duracell Bunny. They take 2 batteries. So we made our ReVolt battery replacement system. It's basically a modified battery that allows you to plug the output of the Ripcord into the device. So it means your pocket operator can now be USB powered rather than just having to power it from batteries, which everyone knows are no good for the planet. And the connector we use on this is the same connector that most cassette players use. We can see here, if I take this connector out, you can see it's a smaller connector. Now, there's a good reason for that. If you're working at low voltages, you don't want to be plugging 9-volt or 12-volt into that. So we thought it was a good decision to separate out and stick with that DC tip size. So we've got, this is a version 1 of the Crazy Chain. So it's got the silver cable, and that comes in both this 3-volt format, which is good for cassette players, like I said, pocket operators, and anything battery operated that takes 2 batteries. We've got little battery adapters that fit in the back of your device and mean that your device is now USB powered. So that's the purpose of that. You can see then even the rabbit here. So I've done something here. You can see that's the battery case, and it's got this little output that I'm taking this 3-volt connection. I've added a little on-off switch. We sell these little on-off switches, these inline ones. They're very useful if you want to be able to use a thing, but you want to sort of control it. So this guy is a little bit noisy, but you can see that it's much easier being able to sort of on-off them from a simple switch. As is the same, sometimes you want to protect your devices by having an on-off switch, so you're not constantly sort of pulling power out of something that's live, which is not a good idea. Okay, so that's our 3-volt connection. Like I said, that's a DC connection. We're going to come to what is our second type of daisy chaining here. We're going to talk about 5-volt and USB-C. So you might see here we've got, just into that second USB-A port, I've got one of these physical 1 to 3 adapters for USB-A, okay? Now, I've got 3 different USB-C devices that I want to power. I'm using the myVolts USB-A to C cable in each case. So the Roland S1 down here, the Zoom mixer, and also this little Korg scope. All of those take USB-C. So what I've done is I've simply plugged this in, and then I've put a USB-A to C cable to each of the 3 devices. Okay, so that's given me power in all 3. One word of caution, and this applies to the Silent Alchemist, also any power bank, any USB power hub, anything that supports PD. You should be careful. I don't know if you noticed here, some of these ports here are green. The ports are initially white, but they turn green when PD is initiated. So PD means that the voltage can change, right? So it's very important that if you're using like a splitter for USB, that you use a splitter that doesn't duplicate the signal, okay? So this has no data lines. This is simply you plug it in and it just takes 5-volt USB. It's dumb in that way, because the danger is if you used a splitter with something that had the data connections intact, the first device will tell the power source, I want 12 volts, and then it will set the voltage to 12 volts for the output for every device, okay? So just that's like something to be careful of if you're using multiple USB devices, that check. And another way you can check as well is that with our USB cables, both the USB C to C and A to B, they are HC, they've got a little LED screen on it, and there's a little PD indicator on those cables. So once that's not lit, you know you're only shipping out 5 volts and you're keeping all the rest of the devices safe. So yeah, that's the 5 volt line. Coming now to the up to 9 volts, starting with Korg. So again, I showed you that little step up. Here it is in action, right? So this cable here, you can see that the port is green because it's activated PD. It's taking 9 volt positive. It's injecting it in here. I've got crazy chain cables. You may be able to see that there's a blue light there, means it's positive polarity, which is what we expect. It's powering this one, this one, this one, and it's also then going to power, you can see that this is also being powered, and the MS-20 Mini, and also then the cable is being brought out here to the SQ64. So you've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 devices all powered from one USB cable. I can see, there's a little meter on these outputs as well. So that's taking 16 watts. So like I said, each of these ports has a 20 watt output potential. So one port, 5 synths, I think is a good result. Then to go to the other side of 9 volt power, I didn't actually use the same method for that. I didn't use one of our 9 volt center negative adapters. I had mentioned before that one type of daisy chaining was, box to box. So what I've done here to power all these pedals is I've actually taken the 24 volt output, which I showed you it works for the, for daisy chaining other Silent Alchemists, but it also works with isolators that people use for guitar pedals. So if you look at this little Kyux unit, it's a very nice little unit. It has a 24 volt input here. You can actually also power via USB-C, but it allows you to take the power connection and think about this. You may already have an existing setup. It's a great integration between the two, but it means you don't lose isolation. So you're able to power more devices, but you don't actually lose the isolation. So in this case, I've got 4 connectors here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pedals. And what I have done here is I've powered 3 of them from their own connection, so they have an isolated connection. One of them is powering a number of units, right? Because it comes with a daisy chain. And that's like an interesting point with all this, that isolation is a great advantage if you have it, great, but it isn't always necessary, and that's why the tradition has been to have daisy chain cables, but also use isolation. It's best to work out what in your setup is noisy. Make absolutely sure that's isolated, but don't feel that you have to have everything isolated, because some devices work great. I mean, a lot of the larger devices, the Electron gear, for example, the Digitact here, it doesn't really require isolation because it has very good isolation in itself. So yeah, so anyway, so that's the 9 volt setup. So like I said, that's how we're getting, the 2 Chase Bliss pedals, the Zoya, Avalanche Run, the Echo system from Empress FX, and a little generic chorus pedal. All those being powered from the 24 volt output here. That's our 9 volt center negative connection. And so lastly then, if we look at 12 volt connection, so all of these 3 12 volt synths, so we've got the Arturia Microbrute, we've got the Somar Pulsar 23, and we've got the Digitact. So all 3 of them have a separate USB connection. They didn't necessarily need isolation, but no harm. All of them require in and around, I think, 6 to 8 watts each. So they're well within the threshold of the 20 watt ceiling. I still have my unisolated port free if I wanted to do other things, if I wanted to plug in other stuff. But this setup here, like I said, it's a 20 synth setup, or a 20 device setup at least. And I can see here on, because I have one of these myVolts cables going into the USB-C input, and it's telling me that like 64 watts is being used. I can see here as well, like on this 100-watt power bank that we sell, it's telling me that I have 37 minutes left. So basically with this setup, I mean, you get about an hour. This is a bigger setup than you'd probably usually use with a power bank, but it's great to know that you can, and if you need to go to DC power, one of the great things about the Silent Alchemist is I can just switch that over. I've got we've got quite a high quality power supply that ships with the Silent Alchemist. It gives 24 volts and 6 amps, so we can power that up like that, and that gives us the full DC power should we wish to use it, and no worry about battery time. So that's the quick summary of like daisy chaining with the Silent Alchemist. I hope you found that useful. If you want to ask any questions, please ask them just below. We're always eager to know what you're thinking about to help us make better products for you. Thank you.